Hello, welcome to the Ultimate Programming course for beginners. Whether you are diving into the world of coding for the first time or you're looking to solidify your fundamental knowledge in programming, you're in the right place. In this course, we are going to be breaking down the fundamental concepts of programming step by step, making it easy for complete beginners to understand and empowering you with the tools and knowledge to confidently write code. So what can you expect from this course? My goal is simple: to equip you with the skills and the knowledge you need to kickstart your journey as a programmer. By the end of this course, you will have the tools to write your own programs, understand fundamental programming principles, and even start building your own projects. Throughout this course, we will cover everything from understanding the basic programming syntax to tackling more advanced concepts. Each section and module is designed to build upon the previous one, ensuring a smooth and comprehensive learning experience. But who am I to guide you through this journey? I'm Cynthia Ifomaize, your instructor for this course. With over 5 years of experience in the tech industry, I've honed my skill as a programmer and educator. I've been able to work with different companies, from the e-commerce companies to the video commerce company and even the fintech companies. I've seen it all, and I'm now here to share my knowledge with you. Before we dive in, there are a few things I would like you to keep in mind. Firstly, programming is for everyone. Whether you are a seasoned professional or a complete beginner, there's always something new to learn in the world of coding. So drop the imposter syndrome, believe you can do it, all right? And follow along. Practice and follow along, right? Secondly, value is key. Value is key. Throughout this course, I'm going to be emphasizing the importance of delivering value in every line of code you write. So, are you ready to kickstart your journey into the world of programming? Yes, right? Great. Without further ado, let's dive in and start coding. Okay, welcome to the module 1 of this course. So this is lesson 1, understanding computers. We're going to be starting from the basics. So we have 6 modules in this course, and under each module we have lessons to learn, and in each of these lessons we're going to be breaking down the concepts of programming. So what is computer? A computer is an electronic device that processes data to perform tasks according to instructions. Let me further break this down for better understanding. So, the computer requires data or an input from the user. So, this input now is what the computer uses to process. It works on this input, it processes it, and then it gives you a result or an information through the output devices. So, as programmers, what you do is basically write the instructions of the computer which you use to process data. So, data is just this unprocessed information. Whatever information you send to the computer, it's called data. We refer to as data because it is still unprocessed state. So it is not really easy to understand. It's when the computer executing the phone task and it creates an instruction given to the computer that is easier for you to understand. So what are the components of the computer? We have the CPU, central processing unit, right? The memory, the random access memory. So we actually have two memory with one, the read-only memory and the access memory. The CPU works, the computer works more with the random access memory during program execution. So that's one memory. While the read-only memory just stores memory data, you cannot change what is in the read. So while the storage device is the hard drive, is where you can store data permanently. We only store any information that really require your storage. So we also have the input and the output devices. We're going to explain this in the next slide. Let me explain
concept of computer. So I'm using the ATM machine in this slide to better explain what a computer is. So it requires an input. So first of all, you give the pin to an ATM machine, right? After putting the card, then you ask me what kind of transaction do you want? So from the cash transaction, you select cash, you select okay, we go ahead, and then the amount before the information now processes and it gives you exactly what you asked for. If you don't give it all this information, all this inputs, it will not be able to give you the money back, right? So it requires those inputs. It's this basic inputs to play to know exactly what account is working with. Okay, what kind of transaction do you want? How much do you want? All that, right? So the processing it and it gives you a result. So this data explains what the producer does for us. So just move over to the next slide.
So, what are the basic components of a computer system? I just listed out here. So I'm just going to go through them quickly. So we have the central processing unit, which is referred to as the CPU. We call it the CPU, right? And the CPU is the brain of the computer. CPU performs and executes instructions. So whenever you hear a programmer talking about computer executing instruction or computer processing instruction or processing data, it is the CPU that's responsible for this. It's in the CPU that every execution, every program execution occurs. That's why it's the brain of the computer. So for the memory, we have the random access memory. It is a random access memory that the CPU works with. The CPU uses the random access memory during program execution to temporarily store data or instructions. So when the CPU is processing data, it needs the RAM. It needs the CPU is very fast, and so is the RAM. So the CPU uses the RAM whenever it is processing data. So this is what we have here. So the CPU is a temporary storage for data and instructions currently being processed by the CPU. So that's it. The CPU uses the RAM to just store data temporarily when it is processing it. That is why the RAM, the random access memory, is volatile. So what I mean by volatile is information stored in the RAM can be lost easily when there is power outage. Let's say in some countries like Nigeria, right? When you're working on the computer and there's power outage, that's this the power NEPA seizes the power or whatever. Yeah. So you'll find out that the particular the work that you're doing currently in the computer, you might just lose it if you don't have a UPS standby. You might just lose that particular thing you're working on because the CPU is still processing it and it is stored in the RAM. So it's not the RAM is not a permanent storage. So it is easy for you to lose information when it is not stored in permanent storage. So we have the permanent storage now, which is the hard drive. So the permanent storage is used to store data permanently. You get so permanent storage for data and programs. You can store whatever program you have, anyone you're working with. You can just store it permanently because you're going to be using it subsequently. But for RAM does not store anything permanently. It is very temporal and volatile. So we also have the input devices. The input devices are used to input data into the computer, like the ATM that we just talked about now. You use your keyboard, the keypad there to just enter numbers and your password and all that. So that's what it is used for. It's used to send data into the computer, while the output devices is used to receive information from the computer, like the printer and the monitor. So how does computer process and execute instructions? Computer uses a process known as the fetch, decode, and execute cycle. It's a cycle that the computer uses to execute instructions. So what happens when the computer fetches this instruction? It fetches it, and fetch means retrieving instructions from the memory. So it means that when you send information to the computer, it is stored in the RAM temporarily. Now you see what I mean? It is stored in the RAM. So now the CPU will now go to the RAM and collect and fetch, fetch this instruction that you just imputed into the computer. Then inside of the CPU is where the decoding is happening. Decoding is translating these instructions into the form that the CPU can understand. in the next lesson, we're going to be talking about programming and programming languages. So why computer has to decode this instruction is that the instruction is not written in computer language. The instruction is going to be written in human language, right? So, and computer does not understand the human language. That's why computer needs to translate the instruction into its own language so that it can now understand it, which is the machine language. The computer language is called the machine language. So before the computer, after understanding it now, the computer can now execute the instructions, because it's only when you understand something that you can execute it, right? So the computer tries to decode it to understand and then now execute. That's when it will now perform the operation specified by the instruction. So as a programmer, you write instructions for the computer. So now the after computer has fetched, decoded it, the next thing to do is to now perform that operation that you specified for the computer to execute. So the computer continues to repeat the cycle. So it repeats the cycle until all instructions have been executed. Until all instructions have been executed. So computer will continue doing this. It will continue fetching, decoding, executing. Just this cycle will continue to all your instructions now have been executed. That is only when computer can stop. And computer does this very fast. You would not even notice. Yeah, when you're just working with the computer, you would not notice that this is what is happening behind the scene. So computer just does it fast for you and then give you the result. And you're happy. Oh, it has given me the result, but you don't know what happened behind the scene. So as programmers, we need to understand how computer works, how the brain of the computer works, so that we can be able to write efficient codes to make life easy for people. Okay, so this diagram now, I'm just going to go over it so that we can better understand it. So this diagram is showing the brain of the CPU, as in the parts of the CPU. This is the brain of the computer now, and this is where all this thing is happening. So the CPU is divided into three parts. We have the control unit, we have the arithmetic logic unit, and we have the memory, which is the RAM. The RAM is residing inside the CPU because the both of them have to work hand in hand. So the control units, when you write the instruction, when you send an input into the computer, right, it goes straight to the RAM. So that's where it holds the data or the instruction temporarily, right? Then the control unit, the control unit will now fetch this instruction or data and then decode it. It's a control unit that will decode it and now know, the control unit will now know, okay, is it an arithmetic operation? Does it require an arithmetic operation, or does it require a logical operation, right? Then depending on the one that particular instruction requires or data requires, it will now send it to either the arithmetic unit or the logic unit for execution. Then after execution, it is sent back again into the RAM. So this is the cycle. This is the cycle that a computer uses to process and execute instructions for us. So let us summarize what we've learned so far. We've talked about computers. Computers are electronic devices that process data according to the instructions specified by the programmer. We have the components of the computer, and they are the CPU, the memory, the storage, and the input and output devices. So how does computer execute or process data now? Computers execute instructions in a fetch, decode, execute cycle, right? I hope I've been able to pass this knowledge to you. I hope you understand everything. If there's anything you don't understand, do not forget to ask questions. Join our community and ask questions, okay? So this is the task. This is your task. What do you use? What tasks do you use computer for in your daily life? Yeah? Just think of it. Can you think of other examples of input and output devices apart from the ones I just mentioned? How do you think computers have evolved over time? Just this is what you can just think of. They're not much, but just think about it and give me, just I'll be expecting you to submit this assignment, right? I will be expecting it. Understanding the basics of computer is essential for programming. When you're learning programming, you should understand that so that you can be able to write a clean code. You can write code efficiently and effectively. Right. So our next lesson is going to be introduction to programming. We're going to talk more. We're now going to go into the main business, understanding the programming concepts. Thank you very much. See you in the next lesson. How does the computer execute and process data? How does it happen? How does this program execution happen? So I'm going to be explaining it right now. So there's a cycle known as the fetch, decode, and execute cycle. That's the cycle the CPU uses. So when you hear me mention the computer, know that I am referring to the CPU. The CPU is made up of three parts.
We have the control unit, the arithmetic and logic unit, and the memory. Those are the three parts of the CPU. So the RAM works hand in hand with the CPU. The RAM is residing inside the CPU. So when data is sent to the computer, it is saved in the RAM temporarily because CPU is still working on it. It is still undergoing program execution. That's why it is saved there temporarily. So the control unit now fetches this data. It fetches the data, and because this data is written in human language, because when you're as a user, you're sending data into the computer, you're going to send it with human language, and we communicate with 1, 2, 3 and ABC, right? So when you send data like this to the computer does not understand these alphabets now. It doesn't. So the the control unit now fetches this data from the memory and decodes it. Decodes the data, right, into, and by decoding I mean translating those instructions into a computer language. So it's going to translate everything you've written into its own language so that it will understand it. That's the only time the computer would understand what you've written before now processing it. So after decoding, after the control units have decoded this data, right, it'll check if it requires a logical operation or an arithmetic operation. Depending on which one is supposed to be carried out on it, right, it sends it to either the logical unit or the arithmetic unit for the program execution to occur. So when this execution has been carried out, it's now sent back to the RAM. So the computer keeps on doing this. It keeps on picking the instruction, decoding, executing, and storing. It continues this cycle. It continues, and the CPU is very fast that you will not even notice that this thing is happening. It continues to do this till this program execution is complete. So I hope you understand this, right? I try to explain it as detailed as I can right now. So if there's any question you have, please do not forget to reach out to me on our channels. We have our Telegram channels and we have our WhatsApp groups. So you can ask your questions, and even your colleagues too that are undergoing this same process can also give you try to answer your question. I will be there to monitor everything and answer your questions where you have any confusion. So, but just know that the CPU is divided into three parts. We have the control unit, we have the arithmetic and logic unit, and we have the memory. This is where the program execution occurs. This is where all the work is carried out.